In this video, we're going to show you a new way to do development with DNN. Well, it's not that new. Matt Rutledge already had done a lot of work to prepare what I'm about to show you today. What you're about to see is a fork of the generator DNN that follows the development pattern that we use at UpendoVentures.com when we do work for our clients. As mentioned, this is a fork from Matt Rutledge's work from the generator DNN GitHub repository, and you'll find a generator UpendoDNN repository. Thorough instructions can be found in the README if you scroll down, and it has a few dependencies. So one of the things is that you will need to have Node installed, Yeoman, npm, and Yarn. Each of these tools has instructions on how to install them, and there are links to those. In addition, you may run into a weird error where you need to add the user path to your environmental variables. A link to that is here as well. Finally, some of the features about this tool do require MS Build, so you'll want to download and install the respective MS Build version starting with 2017 if you can use that one. In order to get started, there's 3 command lines after you have the dependencies installed. First, you install Yeoman using the install-g variable, so that allows it to be installed globally. And then Yarn. Yarn may or may not remain as a dependency in this fork. That's yet to be determined. Then you install generator UpendoDNN. After that, we can just use it. In my demo, I've already ran those 3 commands. You'll also find this in the npmjs.com website. You'll always see a copy of the README here as well. Now, in order to get started, this is assuming that you're doing a brand new project and you will probably not be building just one module or one DNN extension and moving on. Inevitably, even if you only have one module planned so far, you'll end up needing more modules, more libraries, more references, and so on. And so in this fork, we use the development pattern that we deploy for our clients, where you'll be building outside of the DNN website and not in the DNN desktop modules folder. This allows you to more easily keep your solution checked in to your chosen source control without checking in your website, as well as easier forking, easier versioning, easier packaging, and deployment. I'll be demoing all of those right now. As mentioned, we'll want to have a place for our project. So I have in a work folder a generator demo folder. So that could very easily be a client name, ABC Company. You can see that there's nothing in there at the moment. And here's my command prompt. So I've already, in my command prompt, changed directory to that folder. In order to use this, now all I have to do is type out yo UpendoDNN. If you're not aware, Upendo means love in Swahili. So technically, you're saying, yo, I love DNN. I just hit enter. And in just a moment, you'll see the Upendo Ventures project generator. As you can see, we're giving some attribution to Matt Rutledge for all the hard work he's done, but we have some additional projects. So you can see that we have solution structure, module, which is web forms, module that is MVC, another MVC version of that that's from Matt Rutledge, as well as SPA from Matt Rutledge. We have not yet added our own SPA, but we will in a future update. And then Persona Bar, which is also from Matt Rutledge. The projects that are coming from Matt Rutledge, we do plan to continue to, at this time, merge those, but they will be manual merges into this project as well. So that way you have the best of both worlds. But you also see skin object down below, and as you down arrow, there's a library project, as well as a scheduled job project, and then a project for Hotcakes Commerce extensions. The first time you use this for a new project, you'll want to choose solution structure. Once you choose it, you'll be asked 2 questions immediately, and these questions may come out of this in a future update, but as you can see, they're only used for SPA and they have default values, so I'm just going to hit enter to continue. This question is actually important. So this will be a file name prefix for your solution file. It's asking what is your company name. In most cases, you want to be somewhat verbose with this. So I'm going to type out Upendo Ventures and hit enter. Now you can see it's creating the solution structure, and if we look at the folder, you can see that all the files are starting to go into the right place. And if we go back to the command prompt, we can see that it's all ready and everything's in there. One of the things you'll notice is that there's a references folder with DLLs in there. DNN has NuGet as an option for DLLs. As of right now, that's not in this version, but there is an issue in GitHub to change the DNN references to be NuGet related. But as we can see, we have folders available for us as well as a solution file. So there's folders for every type of extension, and they should be mostly self-explanatory, including a README and a git ignore, so you don't have to worry about those things. And the git ignore also ignores this website folder. The website folder has a couple of files that are dependencies for some extensions depending on what you're creating, but those can be removed if you decide to install DNN into this folder to build into. You could also just use this solution to build into an install folder and then continue to install that into a local development site for clean testing. At this time, I'm going to open up the solution file. So we can see that the work/generator demo folder is here, and here's my UpendoVentures.dnn solution file. Now that the solution file is open, we can see there's not much in there yet, but we can see a lot of build files available to us for various types of extensions in DNN. We can also see references to configuration files that we might need to get to from time to time, including updating the README, the log4net.config file, the git ignore, and the webconfig. Nothing else is in here yet, so that's our next step. We're going to now build a module. In order to build a module, we're going to go back into UpendoDNN generator. And when we build this module, it's going to go into the modules folder. So now it's work/generator demo/modules. And once again, I'm going to type out UpendoDNN. This time, instead of solution structure, since I already have one, I'm going to use module web forms. Again, these 2 first questions may or may not stay. But now is an important question. Again, what is the namespace for your module? It says usually a company name. In the first example, I did Upendo Ventures, but this is going to end up being the namespace of your entire module and the code that you write. As an example, you probably don't want to type out Upendo Ventures over and over again, and maybe you want to use something shorter for this instance, so I'm going to just use Upendo as my example. And now it's asking for an abbreviation for that. This abbreviation will be used to scope the SQL statements and objects that are going to be part of this module. So I'm going to use UVM for Upendo Ventures module. Next, it's asking for the name of your web forms module. It's suggesting the name of the folder, but we're going to use something different. I'm going to type out web forms demo and hit enter. Now we can describe it, and so for those of you that have already done module development, this may look familiar because this is metadata that's going to be used for your module. Next is company website. If you don't have a website, just go ahead and put one in here. You'll need to put a value of some kind. And an email address. As you can see, it just created a folder in our directory, and Yarn is going ahead and looking for any dependencies that might be there. If I open up the folder, it'll look very similar to modules that you may have looked at before if you've dealt with source code of modules in the past. All we need to do in order to work with this is add this to our solution in Visual Studio. On our way to do that, we can see that this is all ready. Everything is done with the installation or addition of this module. Now this next step has a GitHub issue as well to do this for you, so you don't have to do the step that I'm about to do. All you have to do, since this is a module, is right-click on the modules folder and then choose Add Existing Project. From there, we'll just navigate to the project that we just created. So I'm going into Modules, Web Forms Demo, and then I'm going to select the project. One of the things to note, though, is that it does include a solution file if for some reason you wanted to open this up on its own. At this time, you can see the module has been added. If you were to look at the source code for anything, you'll see that the namespaces are all in place. You'll also find sample code for scaffolding in this module as well. In the future, there will be additional scaffolding added to the Web Forms module with additional settings. One of the things you'll note is that it's following best practices, so there will be localization files and controller files and also base class files, including interfaces for entities that you might have or custom business objects. There's a logo that you can replace, as well as sample SQL data provider files for your usage. It has a sample view for edit, settings, and the default view, as well as a build file that can be modified from time to time to adjust how the build reacts whenever you're building your module. Finally, there's two manifest files. One of them is for symbols, and so now's a good time to talk about packaging. If we look on the left side on the toolbar, right now we're in debug mode. I'm going to open this folder again and move back to the website folder. So I'm going to open that up in a new window. And we're going to see what happens when we build in debug mode. So I'm going to right click and choose build. And when it finishes, we can see that in the website folder, we will have our DLL and PDB for running the module and debugging, as well as in the desktop modules folder, the module will be in the correct place, but only the files that are absolutely necessary to run this in production. If this was an installed version of DNN, it would have still put the files in the correct place, and at this point we can install the module. I'm going to show you that you don't need to do that just yet. Next, I'm going to switch this to release mode. So now Visual Studio is in release mode, and I'm going to build again after I switch back to the website folder, and now we'll build in release mode. When we build in release mode, you see that an install folder has been created. In DNN, when you install it for the first time, or when you apply an upgrade, this install folder will contain extensions, such as modules and others, that will install upon that installation process or the upgrade process. So this is a great place for us to put this module, especially for running DNN in it. And you can see that whenever we build in release mode, there's an install package and a symbols package created. The install is for installations and upgrades of this module, and the symbols package allows you to install the symbols so that way debugging can be done by an administrator or a super user on the website. They don't need to be a developer. One of the things I just did was I'd installed DNN into the website folder. So this looks like a normal instance of DNN being installed. It's still inside of the solution that we created, and we can now see and use it just like any other development website. If you remember, we had just a moment ago built the install package using release mode, and it's in the modules folder. One thing to note while we're looking at the file system is that sometimes you want to wipe out what you've done because you don't know if it has the correct files in there, so you want to make sure it's clean. So another benefit of this method is I can delete that Web Forms demo folder and rebuild, and we can start over. So I rebuild in debug mode, and we can see our files there with clean files, so if there was any artifacts, they'd be gone. Now in order to use and debug this, we're going to our website. We're going to go to the extensions view inside of the persona bar using the settings menu. We won't see this module installed yet, obviously. There's no web forms module there, but one of the many benefits to this method is that we'll find this module is available under available extensions due to where the packages are being placed. So the web forms demo module, I could click install to install it right now, regardless to whether I've already built in debug mode. It'll just overwrite the files if they're there. So I'm going to go ahead and install. The rest of this process is exactly the same as any other module, so I'm not going to explain these steps. One of the things to note, though, is that we do have a sample release notes, and even if you're only building your module or your extension for your own organization, we'd always recommend having release notes. This helps you understand what's on which environment at any given time. There's also a license file ready for you to change, and then it gets installed. Now that the extensions view is reloaded, I can scroll down and we can see that the web forms demo module is now available, but it's not yet being used. I'm going to add it to a page. And so I chose to go into edit mode, and now I'm going to add module. And we can scroll down and find our web forms demo module. And add it anywhere we'd like. We can see that there's placeholder content currently that says this is the default view. If I go to the settings view for this, we'll see that we have web forms demo settings, and there's a placeholder there for that as well. And there's also a placeholder for the edit view. You'll find a similar experience for every one of the extensions that's available to you. At this point in time, I'm going to add all of them in quick mode so you can see that we can have any number of extensions in here and install them and have them all in a single solution for you and your team to take advantage of and benefit from and save tons of time over the years. For every extension that I want to create, I simply type UpendoDNN. Now, one of the things that is very useful about this solution is that it will remember values that need to be repeated. So for example, your namespace probably won't change a whole lot. So when that has a default value, you can just hit enter instead of typing it over and over again. Same thing for the abbreviation for the data access layer that gets generated. But you always want to create a different name for the module. In this particular case, we're choosing an MVC module, so I'm going to say MVC module demo. And then accept the defaults for the rest. And like every other extension, we can just go ahead and add it. We can see that the MVC module is now in the folder where it's supposed to be, and we can just select it and add it to the same solution. I'm going to build and debug immediately. And it's successful. Then in release mode, and that's successful as well. If we look inside of the solution directory that we have, we can see that our module is there, ready to go, and all the other aspects that I already demoed with the web forms module are also there. In the case of the MVC module, it actually includes a lot more scaffolding than web forms currently. Now we're going to speed through, and you'll see it happen, but I'm not going to explain every step because I've already done that, but I do want to illustrate that we can do this over and over again to have an environment that has all these extensions. So you've seen me add a number of extension points in here, and there's more to come. You've probably seen some labels next to some of those options that said coming soon, and those are coming soon. We'll be adding more examples and more options over time, and you can also help add those as well since it's open source. But I've added all these projects and solutions and they all include example code, so that way you know exactly what to do with them. But now I'm going to make sure I'm in debug, which I am, and another benefit from this is I can just demo this all at once. So I'm going to build the entire solution to put everything in the correct place, including if I go to the website folder, go to the bin folder, move to date modified, we can see that some of these were just showing up as I was getting to it, but all of the extension points, including the libraries, have been put in the correct places. And then if we move to release mode, and I'll use libraries as an example because there's none in there. Rebuild a solution. So I'm building everything all at once. We can see that the libraries are starting to fill up inside the library folder. And so I can start to install them. Now that we saw all this working all at once, you might be wondering a couple things. One, how do I develop on a daily basis? And two, how do I debug? So very quickly, we had the web forms module that we've already installed and added to the page, and now I can go ahead and add a label to this, so I'll do that very quickly. So very quickly, I just went ahead and added a label in here. So it's an ASP.NET label of label message, and then if I look at the code behind for this view, there's some stubs of code that are already in there, and the base class has a shortcut to get to localized values. So you can say get localized string, label message, so that's already in there. And in the localization file, I've added a key value pair of label message. This is the localized default view. So currently, if I go to the website and refresh, you'll see that it still says this is the default view. But if we build, I'm going to change to debug mode and build. Successful, and now refresh. So we can see that the label did not actually show up, so that allows us to debug. So how do we debug? We debug the same way that you would if you were doing this in other manners. So we're going to attach to process. We need to know why this is not happening. So it's quite simple. If I go into these different areas, I can go ahead and set our breakpoints, and then let's attach to process. Attach to process does of course require that you are running in administrator mode. Now that I'm in debug mode, I can just go back to the website and refresh, and I should be able to hit one of these breakpoints. And there we go. It's that easy to debug. And now we can see that with my sample code, I am calling the localization, but I'm not actually signing it to anything. So we're going to fix that. I've made the update, and now very quickly I'm going to just rebuild and load the website again. Now that the page reloaded, we can see that the label has correctly been assigned the text from the localization file. Hopefully I'm being able to illustrate the benefits of how powerful this is for you and your team. You can save tons of time just in a single project by following this development pattern. Please feel free to contact us if you have any questions, and thank you very much for watching this video.